Molly, all joking aside, this isn't good news for Britain, is it?
No, it's not good news. I think we know that alcohol has a huge impact on the NHS. So the direct cost of alcohol-related health issues in this country is 3.5 billion, but the indirect costs in terms of crime, lost productivity, all that kind of thing have been estimated, close to 30 billion. So it is a serious problem. And of course, at an individual child level, it speaks to a generation who perhaps are struggling with mental health, who are not happy. All of that said, I do think we need to be a little bit careful about decrying, calamity in these figures, because actually, if you look at some of the detail here, really what this very big World Health Organization report is saying is that, by age 11, 1 in 3 kids have tried a drink. Now, that in itself is not alarming. I think the figures get worse and a bit more alarming when you look at drunkenness figures, so how many children are drinking regularly. But the percentage of children and adolescents drinking regularly are much lower than that 30%.
So when I was growing up, it was sort of standard advice to parents. Introduce your children to alcohol, have a sip of your father's beer at quite a young age to try and normalise alcohol, to take away the mystique, to try and tackle things like drunkenness. It was often labelled as the approach that the French would take to alcohol. I'm not sure that's actually correct. What is the right advice to parents in terms of trying to ensure that they keep our children safe and moderate when it comes to alcohol consumption?
I think there's been a little bit of a backpedaling on that. If you look at what the World Health Organization and other, alcohol groups are saying, is perhaps don't give your children, drinks at a very young age. But, ultimately it's parental choice, isn't it? And alcohol is a product that's around in the real world. And at some point, kids are going to come into contact with it. And, personally, for my own kids, I would rather they first came into contact with it, perhaps a bit younger, in the safety of the home under parental supervision. I don't see anything wrong with that. I will probably be told off for saying that. I think, the comments that have, and the kind of hyperbole that have attached to this report are quite interesting. So, we had the World Health Organization saying, adolescents need to be protected against the effects of toxic and addictive products. Now, that is certainly true, but I'm sure we can think of many more products that arguably are more toxic and more addictive for children, or the majority of children, than alcohol. So, smartphones, obviously a big debate going on there at the moment. What about junk food? Junk food is disastrous for child health.
Don't get me started. I hope Rishi Sunak starts. He'll be on this. I tell you, he's banning tobacco for all young people. Apparently, you'll never be intelligent enough to decide whether you want to enjoy a puff on some form of tobacco product. He's banning that. The Labour Party have already said that if they get into government, they're going to ban junk food advertising targeted specifically at young people. They'll be on alcohol next. I was just said to our caller just before the break, Benedictine and hot water, one of my favourite drinks, a Benny and hot. It's good. It's a good hot toddy. It looks after you've got a cold. What is wrong with a drop of alcohol in moderation? Surely we should be encouraging that.
Yeah, look, for adults, absolutely, absolutely. I think, you can be, and I class myself as someone who, is libertarian probably by nature. I think it is a very different equation for children. So I have no issue, actually, and in fact, I'm very supportive of state intervention to protect children. As long as it is shown to work, it is sensible, and it's needed. I think there are very many examples where actually it's not needed, and where information campaigns would be better.
That is different than banning people forever. So I have no problem with children not being able to smoke, for example. I gave a speech in Parliament last week about it. What I do believe is freedom. If you believe in freedom, it is the freedom to make bad decisions as well as good decisions. Let's pick up on something else in this, which I think is worrying, particularly for young girls in this country. This huge increase that we've seen, again, we're a global leader in it, not sort of a league that we may want to top, of young girls vaping. Now, what do you think's driving that?
Yeah, I would say it's interesting you picked that up, Jake, because when I read this report, I thought that was actually potentially the more alarming part of it. What is driving it? I mean, again, the headlines have attributed this to lockdown. Now, I will be as quick and keen as anyone to call out the harms of lockdown, but I think we have to be a bit careful, because really what we have seen over the last, probably 15 or more years is real underinvestment in children's services, in youth services, in play areas for kids. So, at a time we are making the quality of our children's lives worse, I don't think we should be surprised that they turn to cigarettes, and well, I guess it won't be cigarettes, but vapes, to fill a void. And of course, the vapes, and this government were warned about this. You ban cigarettes, and what comes to fill that hole? Well, vapes.
Well, look, they were warned not least by me in Parliament last week. Look